Hey everybody, and welcome to my members only video where I'm going to answer a question for a member here. Let's see if I can pull this up. Okay, here we go. So Laura Blanco writes, "Hi Bill, can you suggest a possible new video for your high flyer subscribers? How to become a CEO?" It's related to this one, of course, but not only. You can also become a CEO for someone else's company if you have what it takes. You are definitely the guy to lecture about this. Thanks. Okay, so how to become a CEO? That's an excellent question. Yeah, I imagine this might not be a mainstream video. I don't think everyone cares about this too much, but I know some people do. So I just written myself some notes here. I was thinking about this earlier. Okay, so listen, look, do I know absolutely everything about every possible way to become a CEO? No, but I'm going to give you the sort of broad outline of the stuff I do know, okay? And that is that there's basically two ways to become a CEO, okay? And the number one way is to start your own company, and then if it is successful and it goes somewhere, it's your company, you're the CEO, okay? Or at least you're in the CEO role, okay? Technically, a CEO is someone who doesn't own the company but manages it, okay? You can get CEOs that are also owners, but when you say CEO, that implies that you're managing the company on behalf of its owners. Okay, so it is possible to get into that role the entrepreneurial way by starting your own company. Okay, and there are many examples of that. There's a lot of celebrity CEOs that have started companies like that, like Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos, from Facebook and Amazon, as some examples, right? They weren't corporate people. They were entrepreneurs, and then they became the CEO because their companies were successful. Okay, that's the first way. The second way is the corporate way, okay? And that's where you don't start the company. You get a job working in an organization as presumably an entry-level employee or a junior-level employee, and then eventually you rise up to become the CEO. Okay, that's what I'm going to call the corporate way of becoming a CEO. And as far as I've been able to work out, if you go that route, if you're American, you need basically three things. Okay, the first one is a certain amount of luck, because luck does play a part. We have a certain amount of influence over ourselves and our environment, but we can't control everything. And sometimes people are just in the right place at the right time. And that is a factor, okay? So you need luck, but what's much more important is you need experience, okay? One common trait of people that get to sit in the CEO chair of established organizations, established companies, is that they have a hell of a lot of experience. The reason for this is because the thing about the CEO is that you need to have exceptional judgment, okay? You could even argue that's the most important trait of a CEO, having good judgment, because you're going to be steering the company, at least in the long term. So you need to have very good judgment. How do you get good judgment? Well, you need to know your industry very well, okay? You need to know the business environment very well, and you need to know your company very well. And how do you get that knowledge? Well, it's years and years of experience working with those things and becoming familiar with them. So you need experience. Now, one common way of doing that is to start somewhere towards the bottom in an organization and then gradually work your way up. So you see, if not every job, you see many jobs and many aspects of what's going on. And you're never in the same place for 20 years or something. You keep moving, you keep seeing different elements of the collective. Okay, so experience is very, very important. So if your ambition is to become a CEO and you're doing it sort of the corporate way, that's going to be a major, major requirement. Okay, lots of experience. Now, the third element that is what I'm going to call the political requirements. Okay, if you look at the people who are offered a CEO role, okay, generally speaking, they have certain traits, okay? How they speak a certain way. How they dress a certain way. They look a certain way. The things that they say, okay, what they say They tend to talk a certain way, okay? And they generally tend to be mature. I don't mean in terms of age. I mean in terms of how they behave, okay, and how they think. They generally have a lot of maturity, okay? You don't generally see a lot of people in their 20s that are given a CEO role of a large organization. You just don't see that unless they're entrepreneur CEOs, okay? And what I mean by maturity is that these people have a certain amount or above average amount of self-awareness and sensitivity to what they say, what they do. They are aware of everything that they say, do, and the way they look and all that, their actions. They have an awareness of how they are perceived by many different observers. Okay, a lot of times when we're younger, when we were in our 20s, and I can certainly speak for myself on this one, we don't have that self-awareness. We tend to keep it real. We say exactly what we think, no matter how blunt, no matter how insensitive that might be, no matter how controversial, no matter how upsetting. We tend to just do what we feel and wear our opinions on our sleeves. And don't get me wrong, there's some advantages to this, okay? But there are some disadvantages too. And those disadvantages, think of like in terms of diplomacy, okay? Those would be considerable drawbacks if you behave that way. Okay, if you're a negotiator, those would be considerable drawbacks. These are all things where, revealing what you know and what you think openly, generally that works against you. Okay, so one of the political requirements for being a CEO is that you have that maturity, that self-awareness. Okay, that's something that I don't know if that's taught. You could learn that, or it's something you have to just discover with experience. I'm not sure. Maybe if you have a history of saying things and it gets you into trouble, and then you get tired of paying the consequences, maybe you learn that way. But that's a big part of it. Okay. Basically, all of that culminates in things like public relations. Okay, if you've worked in public relations, you know that you can't just tell it like it is. Everything that you say has to be very coordinated, planned, measured. And generally, if you're young, you will not understand what I'm talking about. This will sound like just baloney to you. If you've never run your own business, if you've never tried to sell anything before, what I'm saying right now will sound like baloney to you. But if you try that, try starting your own company, try announcing products, trying to sell things, you will learn very quickly why I'm saying what I'm saying, okay, and why this is a thing. Okay, so if that's not you, have an open mind, okay, because this is very, very real, and a lot of people don't realize it, but the people who do, they're the ones that become candidates, a possible candidate to become an executive or a CEO. Okay, you might have to play power politics. Okay, it's likely that you will have to do this. Now, over on my other channel, The Company's Expert 2, in the last couple of weeks, I've done a video called What is Organizational Behavior? I will put a link to that video down in the description of this video. If you're interested in what we're talking about now, check that out, because organizational behavior is an area of management, and you need to know that topic. You need to know the concepts in it. It talks about power, what gives somebody power. It talks about decision making, talks about communication. You need to know that stuff. Okay, if you don't know it and you buy yourself a book on it, like a textbook from a university where they teach this stuff, which you can do, by the way, because let me tell you, textbooks for MBA programs that talk about this stuff, anybody can read it. It's not like there's any mathematics in it. It's not like there's any really cryptic language or terminology you don't understand. Get a book on that, okay, if you're interested in this. But you need to know organizational behavior. That's one of the things it talks about is power politics, okay? And another element, I'd say the final element to these political requirements is the fact that you're going to have to how can I put this? Ingratiate yourself to the people above you who make decisions. Okay, if you want to rise through the ranks, you can't be, generally speaking, you can't be openly against the people that are above you, okay, that could promote you. You can't, you have to toe the party line. This is part of human nature. It's not corruption. It's not nepotism. It's human nature. We tend to like people who agree with us, and we tend to dislike people or not be so, turned on to people who are openly against our opinions and what we stand for. Okay, so obviously there's a ton of exceptions to this. Throughout history, there's been many people that have risen through the ranks by going against the grain and telling it like it is, and causing friction between themselves and their superiors. But that's an exception, okay? That's not a rule. The rule is very much the opposite, okay? So having an awareness of this and being able to do it is also a major component. So those are the political requirements. Those are the three things you need to become a CEO the corporate way, in my opinion. Luck, experience, and having the political requirements. And those are the two ways of becoming a CEO, the entrepreneurial way and the corporate way. Now, for what it's worth, my story is I did a hybrid kind of thing here. I spent many years working in, large multinational corporations in a corporate environment. I rose somewhat through that to like a mid manager kind of level, borderline executive. And I gained a lot of traits and a lot of experience with that stuff. But then I also started a business, with some other people. And, so I ended up being one of the leading people of that business. And so me becoming the CEO of it wasn't so far-fetched because I was one of the main people in that organization. So it's not like I beat out 1,000 other people to that job or anything. But I had a lot of experience and stuff from the corporate world, and that really helped. So that helped me also in getting into that role. But the bottom line was that I didn't like it. Okay, and I've done videos on this where I talk about the reasons why, but I didn't like it because everybody thinks it's such a great job. It is not. It really isn't. It's extremely stressful. There's no letting up from it. You have to do a few unpleasant things like fire people. And then you're playing with people's lives in the sense that, their job could go away if you don't do your job correctly. And also you are responsible for, technically, you are responsible for things like safety and stuff. So, you make decisions that could affect people's lives in other ways. But yeah, it was stressful. And it's not like I was the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So, it wasn't all fancy hotels and $2,000 suits. It had a sort of raunchier kind of side to it, less glamorous side to it. And that's why I call myself a former CEO, because I don't have any plans to ever go back to working in that job. It's tough. So there you go. So hopefully that makes sense. Thank you very much to Laura Blanco for sending that in. I hope you guys found this somewhat interesting. If you have any questions for me you'd like me to answer, let me know in the comments. And other than that, have yourselves a great day, great week, great month, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.